shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Listen up, rock soldiers. This is Robbie Vegas, and I want you to know that this show is sponsored by Unchained Muscle. For all your workout gear needs, shaker bottles, whatever you need, t-shirts, tank tops, men, women, shorts. There's even a spot on the website where you can go and they will donate a portion of whatever you spend to mental health charity. So I'm going to need you guys to check that out. Go there, grab your gear. That's going to be unchainedmuscle.co.uk. If you use code RVegas20, you'll save 20% every time you go to the site. So check that out. Make sure you support our sponsors. They make this possible. What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Bets Are Off with Robbie Vegas. I am super excited for today. We have TJ Zindle of Last Conservative and the Ragbirds, and he is an amazing singer, songwriter, guitar player, solo artist, whatever you need, he's got you covered. He is just an amazing musician. I highly recommend you guys check him out. I think you're going to love this interview. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback, subscribe, rate us, whatever you got to do. And we're not going to waste any time today, so let's get to TJ here. All right, TJ. Well, first of all, to start, I did just want to say thank you for agreeing to do this. I know you're probably pretty busy and all that, so I do appreciate it very much. And
it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I've known you for what, maybe like, this is going to make me sound really old, but maybe like 13 or 14 years now. But
probably.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah,
Jeez.
So it's cool to be able to do this with you. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you're doing this. This is great.
Let's dive right into it then. So tell me how you first got into music.
Well, let's see. Well, early on, I started playing trumpet at about 9, maybe 8 or 9 years old, and it really felt natural. And kind of around that point, I realized, like, I kind of like doing this, and this feels right. So I'm going to do this. And then I remember seeing Radiohead's Creep video on TV and hearing Johnny Greenwood's, hit the guitar on the, during that bit, and going, oh shit, I want to do that.
That's awesome.
So then my brother taught me a little bit of guitar, like he taught me power chords. And then I started writing songs, and then, pretty much started my first band, The Conservatives, when I was, I think, like 15 or 16.
Oh, wow. You've been at it for a long time.
Yeah, and then we changed the name to Last Conservative in 98, or maybe 99, when we put out Unremarkable, our first record. But yeah, it was kind of always music. Once I found it, it was just felt right.
How did you realize that you were set out to be like a lead singer?
Yeah, that one I don't know quite as much, honestly. It sort of just happened. It was like you kind of write songs, and then you're sort of in your, at least for me, I was just in my bedroom, mostly alone, just kind of playing guitar and writing songs about whatever sad event happened, when you're 15 or 16.
Yeah, right.
And then eventually realized, well, like, no one else is going to sing these songs. Like, they're not, great poetry to have, and most of the singers that I liked, Rain Maida from Our Lady Peace, Billy Corgan from, Smashing Pumpkins, like a lot of those sort of weirder, kind of less pretty sounding voices. Like, I kind of have one of those sort of nasally kind of things. So it's like, oh, well, if you don't have to necessarily sound like a songbird to be able to sing. And I realized, well, someone's got to sing these songs that I feel like have to be out there. So.
Okay. And you have a very distinct voice too. Like, I always know when I hear something by you, it's very like, oh yeah, that's TJ. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I mentioned earlier, piece like the Matthew Good band, like a lot of those Canadians, we have sort of a similar inflection in our voice and that sort of nasally, kind of thing. Like, so yeah, I appreciate that.
But don't sell yourself short though, because you got some range.
Thanks.
So when you started Last Conservative, was that your project? That was your baby? You set out to do that?
Yeah. I had a bunch of good friends that I did it with, and we had a bunch of lineup changes and stuff. But ultimately, it was my songs and my drive. Obviously those guys, all the guys that I played with did some amazing things and are awesome and stuff. So most of them I'm still really good friends with and everything. So I hate to say it was my project because a lot of work went into it from a lot of other people. So yeah, I feel pretty fortunate.
That's awesome. You guys had a lot of really good records too.
Thanks. We had some stuff.
Yeah. Now, as far as Last Conservative goes, do you ever see that happening full time again?
Probably not full time. It's tough. I live out in Ann Arbor now, and it's difficult. Everyone has lives, and I mean, whatever full-time is these days as a band. I mean, there aren't a lot of bands that are able to tour full-time, so there's a lot of different types of, musicians and stuff. So, I mean, like, I'm just happy I still get to play with those guys. At least once a year we do the CPX Miss that we've done the last, I think 6 years or 5 years or 4 years. I don't know.
All right.
We've been reuniting for a bit, every year in December. But, full-time is tricky.
That's understandable. So you guys did end up signing with Good Karma Records that was owned by Robbie Takek of the Goo Goo Dolls. Can you walk me through that process? Like, how did that all come about? How did that happen?
Well, a lot of luck, a lot of things went right for us. Well, we were recording some demos with Mark Hunt, great, engineer and good friend of ours and stuff. And Robbie and Mark are friends, and Robbie had asked Mark, hey, getting this label started up, who should I check out? And Mark was kind of just hearing us, and he passed on some of our stuff. And I remember I was driving on the 33, and Robbie called me, and Robbie Takek has such a distinct voice,
Yeah.
It's Robbie, and I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, of course I'll come. Let's get in and record some tunes and stuff. So I mean, it was that was a pretty crazy phone call, and then we were kind of off and running.
I love stories like that. That's huge. And being a big, were you a big Goo Goo Dolls fan before this all took place?
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess that's tricky because it's not like I didn't really listen to the Goos a lot when I was growing up. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But as I got older, I got well, when you're younger, I guess, at least when I was younger, it was like there were two kinds of music: you're either good or you're not good, and you have like at least I had a very rigid view of music, and it's like it has to be this type of thing, it has to be this type of thing, otherwise it's not. It's like if you're not as passionate as Eddie Vedder or whatever, get out of here. And it's like that's a pretty dumb way to view music. So it took me a while until I figured out, like I remember when I first kind of realized like Springsteen was a pretty great songwriter. It's like, oh shit, he's pretty great. And I just had blinders on because,
it wasn't in your wheelhouse.
Seattle, or whatever, So I mean, I guess that's the honest answer.
I feel like a lot of us go through that though. It's one of those things where when you first get into music, it's your music or no music at all.
Yeah, of course. And then, eventually you realize like that, when you still know every lyric to every, Whitney Houston song or whatever was on the pop radio growing up, you're like, damn, those are pretty great songs too.
Yeah,
why was I, why am I closing myself off to music here? It's like the good stuff is the good stuff no matter what,
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
very true.
Yeah.
So after you signed with Good Karma Records and all that, I know you guys toured a lot and you were traveling like crazy. Do you have a favorite band that you've toured with, opened up for, anything like that?
Probably our most fun tour we did was we went out, the Counting Crows and the Goo Goo Dolls were doing a co-headlining bill with a band called Augustana. They were opening, and we went out on that tour, which was, I want to say like 6 or 8 weeks. And we were on, sort of side stages and stuff, like we weren't on the main stage. Yeah, like that was a really pretty fun, exciting tour for us because it felt like we were close.
Yeah.
It felt like things were happening and we had a lot of momentum going at that point. And, so I mean, that tour was pretty special. And plus, I mean, I always loved the Counting Crows and getting to watch them sound check some nights and, getting to see them play most nights and, kind of see how they do things. There are a lot of lessons that I learned from that tour, so that's a pretty special one.
That had to be incredible, just getting to see one of your favorite bands for weeks on end and being a part of that. Yeah. I actually remember that tour, too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a great tour. Yeah, and I really liked Augustana, and those guys were cool as hell. We hung out with those guys a lot, and got to hang out with Robbie a bunch, and all the crew for the Goos, like Damage, their guitar tech, and Andy was just Robbie's bass tech, like just awesome people. Like everyone was super cool to us, and that was pretty special. It's
always cool to hear when other bands are decent human beings because there's a lot of horror stories out there.
Oh God, yeah. Music draws in a wide array of people.
Yeah, right. You're putting it nicely. Yeah, for sure.
People too. Yeah, sure.
So we kind of touched on it a little bit. Who are your biggest musical influences to this day? So you mentioned, Counting Crows are one of them. Who else would you throw in there?
Growing up, a lot of the grunge stuff. I mean, obviously it was Pearl Jam. Soundgarden. Garden is pretty great. Jeez, Smashing Pumpkins are pretty great. A lot of U2. And then kind of once I hit my late teens and early 20s, I got into a lot of Elvis Costello.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And the Attractions. So that was really working for me for a bit. And right now I can't stop listening to the Mountain Goats. Do you know the Mountain Goats?
I have never heard of them, no, but now just because of that name, I would like to.
Oh, my God. I can't say enough good things about this band. Like, they started in 93, and it's there's one main singer-songwriter guy named John Darnielle, and he's just a genius. And every record they make is kind of a whole different thing. Like, they did a record a couple records ago about Mexican wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Which you should get. It's, and I don't have a lot of history in Mexican wrestling, but, like, it's an amazing record to tell, like, 10 or 12 different stories in these songs and still have them be kind of pop songs and have melodies and hooks and like, highs and lows in it. I mean, they're incredible.
Well, that piqued my interest right there.
Yeah. He also did a record called The Sunset Tree that is just a beautiful record and is maybe the most kind of raw and pure and straightforward kind of emotional expression record I'd ever heard. Is about his stepfather was like a real, abusive, drunk, kind of bad dude. And it's like he tells you the whole story of his house and the whole thing in one record. And it's so raw. And it's like, oh, shit. Okay, there you go, right there.
Wow.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah,
it's a great record.
That sounds awesome. I'll definitely check them out.
Yeah.
So you said you're in Ann Arbor now, right?
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with you playing with the Ragbirds?
Yeah. I moved here in probably 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ragbirds is a band that my sister started in 2005. Okay. And when Last Conservative broke up, their guitar player had left the band, so the timing worked out, and I planned to come out, only for a short time, and I've been here about 10 years now, so.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And now, what's your role with the Ragbirds? What is? Are you still writing songs? Are you singing? Or is it just strictly guitar?
Well, I play guitar and I sing a lot of harmonies, and I lead a couple songs, and I've written a couple songs with my sister. She's the main songwriter. She's a great songwriter too. But so I mean, we're still rolling along. We're working on music for our next record. We're just about to put out a new single called Curious that we recorded with a guy named Jamie Candeloro, who did some work with Willie Nelson and R.E.M. and Ryan Adams and a bunch of other people. So. Oh,
that's awesome. And are you guys actively touring or?
Yeah. For the better part of 10 years. I mean, we had some years that we were doing about 200 shows a year.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yeah. So those years were kind of a blur.
Yeah, right. I can imagine.
But it was awesome, though. I mean, and so I mean, we're still out there, still going.
Are you finding any similarities between the Ragbirds and Last Conservative, or is it pretty much completely different?
I guess it's completely different, not in a negative way. Mm-hmm. It's just my sister plays from a different part of her heart than I play from. As long as you play from your heart, that's all that really matters. For my tastes, whether it's like really skilled and technical or whether it's, really sloppy and, rudimentary. It's like, as long as the intention is real, then it's real, So,
yeah. Oh yeah. I absolutely agree with that. That's awesome that you put it that way.
Yeah. Thanks.
So you still record as a solo artist, correct?
Yeah.
So your last album was awesome. I've listened to it a million times, and
thanks, Robbie. Appreciate that.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I've always been a huge fan of your work, your songwriting, and all that. Thanks. So this last one was it blew my mind. It was so good. So just tell me about what went into making that album. Was it like a more personal writing experience, or are you generally a pretty personal writer? Like what was different than just doing your solo album as compared to playing with a band?
Sure. Well, thanks. The record was called Hold On With All Your Might. It came out in 2017, I think. And I'm working on more music to put out a new one, hopefully by the end of the year. That record was a bit of a roller coaster. It took me about 10 years to make. Yeah, like some of the songs I started writing and recording in 2009, I think, right when the band had broken up. And Mike Zeiss, who used to play bass in Last Conservative, well, he still does when we do our reunions and stuff. He's was like one of my best friends in the world, and he built this really nice studio, over the a decade, I'd pretty much been banging away at this record, just bit by bit.
Wow.
And, and there were a lot of lows making that record. I mean, it was a real intense one to make because, like I said, my whole life was wrapped up in Last Conservative. That was my universe. And then it broke up and I tried to kind of pull the cord and get it started again, but the motor was dead, type of thing. And, so at least I started freaking out, kind of started drinking,
Right.
put on a bunch of weight and, kind of life went to shit and didn't write songs for a good bunch of years. So I had a bunch of songs that we'd started. But early on, a song called Gloria that came off, there's an EP that I put it out on because we did it so long ago that we couldn't find the original track of it. So we basically just had to master, the bad MP3 that we had of it. But like that song and You Have It Coming, which is one of the songs off Hold On With All Your Might, those were both from like very early on, like 2009. But yeah, most of my stuff has to be pretty personal. This record was a little broader, which was good. I wanted to take a step back a little bit, and a lot of the lyrics were a little vague for me, and which sometimes is a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about how I don't know what a single Nirvana lyric or song is about. Like, not one iota,
Yeah.
And but that there's greatness in that too. So I mean,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how many people will tell you that Kurt Cobain is a genius?
Sure, everybody, yeah, and whatever. There's all sorts of stuff, but yeah. So this record, in an attempt to make it less personal, it ended up being more difficult and more personal to make since it wasn't as natural as when you're younger and you're writing. Everything's like, oh, I'm sad. Here's a sad song. Bam. There you go.
Right.
Everything's like very, cut and dry. So yeah, it was a tough record to make. Honestly, it nearly scrapped it a dozen times. It nearly came out as EPs. It nearly just,
I for one, am glad that you did.
Whatever.
I for one, am glad that you did put it out because it is really good. So I hope that everybody listening to this podcast will definitely go and check that out after they hear this interview for sure.
It's on, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, anywhere you'd look for music digitally, Pandora, all those places. It's there.
Awesome. Fantastic. So you're still touring, you're still playing, you're still writing. Are there any bands out there that you haven't toured with or played with yet that you might have on your radar that you'd like to say that you did tour and play with before your finish?
I mean, I'd love to play with the Mountain Goats, like I was just singing their praise, I mean, there's a lot of people. That's a tricky one because there's a lot of people that I would love to play with, but I would be terrified that I would then get the confirmation that I always knew that, like, if I opened for Smashing Pumpkins, that Billy Corgan would walk by and go, I'd walk by and I'd be like, you son of a bitch. I knew it. Every musician has that voice in their head that's, just crushing them all day, that's just kind of part of it. And, it's probably not even just musicians, it's probably everybody. We just happen to be more vocal about the stuff we're going through as artists, all that stuff, so.
Yep, our emotions are more on our sleeve than a normal person.
Sure, yeah. And although at this point I feel like everything is so crazy and overwhelming that everyone is kind of right now in a constant state of like, okay, I'm just trying to get through today.
Yeah,
that type of vibe. So I mean, I think we're all more in the same boat right now.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Whatever boat that is, it's how we feel. Instead of like, whereas I think like artists used to be a little more, but now with social media and everyone's more aware of so many more things that we're always just on our emotional frayed edges because we're all talking about our emotions all the time.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So,
are you one of those singers too, like I am, that when you go to make a record and you hear your voice back, you don't like your own voice?
Of course, yeah, no one does. No one, not a single artist. I don't think anyone's ever liked their voice.
Yeah.
Or you can make a genius record, and all you'll hear is that one. There's that one part in the one back section of that last song where I hit a note that I didn't like, and that's all you'll hear every time you hear the record.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. This is the first time I'm actually recording in maybe 8 years. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm hearing it back now. It's going well. I love the way it's turning out, and I think it's going to be a really good record. It's just when I hear my voice back, I'm like, nah.
Yeah, sure. What's the instrumentation? Like, was it like a full band thing? Are you doing acoustic stuff?
It's just me and an acoustic, and the more that I do it, the more I'm like, well, I'm going to add some bass in here. Well, I'm going to throw some piano in over here. So it's actually becoming more than I set out for it to be.
Sure. And then you're like, well, I got a keyboard. I might as well put some strings, and then you got a whole orchestra on your track. And then you're like,
yeah. There's already one track that I'm kicking that idea around with.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just the way it goes. I guess we kind of are all the same.
Sure. No, dude, send me some tracks. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will for sure.
That's cool.
Tell me what's next for you, man. Like, what's coming up in the near future for you? What are you excited about? What's going on?
Well, I've got a power trio called TJ Zindle and the Power Lines. It's me and my good buddy JB, John Brown from Ann Arbor, and our good buddy Shannon Wade from Detroitish Ann Arbor. Power trio, basically playing tunes from Hold On With All Your Might from that record, and some Last Conservative songs, and a whole bunch of new stuff. I put out a new single, what was it, April 1st? I had to put it on April Fool's Day because it just seemed too silly not to, called Harvey. So yeah, that's a pretty, kind of pretty heavy riffy, garage rocky song that, I was really feeling at the time. So, so just kind of playing. The Ragbirds are still going strong. We're working on a new record. Let's see. I mean, I guess that's pretty much it musically. I'm going to put something out again soon, and it's kind of, you just keep going. That's what you do.
And do you yeah, that's true. There's no end in sight ever.
Yeah.
It's always when the next time you're going to record or release something.
Sure. Because by the time you finish recording it, you already hate it. You're like, God, I can't wait for the next record.
Yeah, exactly. You've heard every song 37 times.
I'm one song away from,
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
What is it? You ever see the movie Airheads?
Oh, love that movie.
Yeah, where he says, all I need to do is write one song that lives on forever, and after that, it doesn't matter.
I'm an average enough fucked up type of guy or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And you know what? Honestly, when I was growing up, like that line in that movie, that really I remember feeling choked up about that movie, like that moment. Feeling like, yeah, man.
I feel like that's like a thing.
It kind of felt like that was possible. Like if you and your friends got together and worked hard enough, and you made music that mattered to you, you could really do something with, one song or one record or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so powerful.
I agree. I remember thinking the same thing. The look on his face, the way he delivered the line, it just hits you, and you're like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Brendan Fraser. Oh, man.
Yeah,
what
right.
a great movie.
So do you have a favorite song of yours that you've ever written, or is it just like you said, after you're finished, you're on to the next one? Oh, no pun intended on that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it is, I think. Jeez. It's funny because there's still a bunch of songs off On to the Next One, that record, our third record, which came out in 2003. Mm-hmm. I still play a bunch of those songs. Like Can't Get Away From You, I still play almost every show.
That's a great
I
song.
love playing that song. That one, there's some lines in that song that I hit that it still feels like whatever emotion is just right there. So that's pretty great. I mean, there's a song called Mary off of On to the Next One, and that one still felt like kind of an emotional sort of breakthrough for me as a person to, kind of open up like that. And that's one that when I play it still, it still resonates. Off the new record, 9-Volt Brain is really fun to play. that one rocks pretty hard, and it's kind of like a big, dumb, loud, angry song. So those are always good to get off your chest.
Yeah, that's very true.
And there's a song. The last song off the new record is called "Last Man on the Titanic," and that one was a pretty emotional, kind of intense song. So that one still feels pretty good. That
is probably my favorite song on the record. I actually do a cover of it.
Really?
I do, yeah.
Oh, shit. I'd love to hear that. Oh, that's awesome.
I will definitely make sure that I get some footage of that and send it your way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I've listened to it a million times, and I'm like, I'm going to do this song.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that one was, there's there's a couple stories that I want if you'll indulge me.
Yeah, tell them.
I had just played a show in Ann Arbor with my trio at the time, and we were the second band on a 4-band bill, and we were the band that everyone went outside and smoked, and socialized out in front in the alley or whatever, like on that, like we cleared the room by the third song of our set. And it's like, yeah, so which is lyric by song number 3, we cleared out the room, and it's like, and also there was a story that Zach Ward, you probably know Zach, he's a Buffalo guy, he's an amazing musician.
I was going to say that sounds really familiar.
Yeah, he's been a bunch of bands. Son of the Sun. Right now, he's in First Award. Is a great Buffalo band. Kind of probably one of the preeminent Buffalo bands right now. Which also has Josh Mullen, our old Last Conservative bass player.
Oh, okay.
Bass. I love Josh. Josh is one of our favorite people in the world. He's great. But he played a show, and a woman came up. During one of the versions, like handed him a note that said something along the lines of like, "Can you play something that doesn't sound like you?" Or like she requested, maybe it was like she requested like a Beatles song, and he's like, "Well, I'm doing this thing right now," and she's like, "Can you play something that doesn't, something along those lines?" Basically, like, just do not you. That's what I want you to do.
Oh my God!
Trained dancing monkey, play for me, but not in a way that's you.
Right, yeah.
Which is like, wow. So it was kind of like a sort of fuck you song to the general. I don't even know who that's about, who that's to, but general people that
right, like general hecklers.
Yeah, I mean, it's shitty audience members or people. I mean, and obviously that's one that with a lot of my songs, however I'm feeling that night, when I'm playing, I can kind of laser beam focus on that emotion. So if I'm feeling like I'm angry, then it's angry. If I'm feeling like I'm in a good mood, then it becomes more buoyant and there's a little more joy to it and stuff. Like, but that's one where it's like it just kind of goes, and usually I end up screaming something. I don't know, whatever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's basically a big middle finger to the people who scream "Freebird" and
Yeah, I mean, it depends, because you can scream "Freebird" in a nice way, and you can scream it in a mean way.
That's true.
So, like it all depends. It depends, and you can also respond to what the singer does, how the singer or whatever responds to you screaming "Freebird," and that'll show if you're an asshole or not.
Right. Yeah.
Because if they're like no, and you're like, all right, cool, just do whatever. If you're chill, that's fine. But it's yeah. I mean, I don't know.
All right. Fair enough. Now, before we wrap this up, though, I want you to just plug all your social media, remind everybody where they could find your music, tell them where you're going to be, touring, whatever you want to end this with. Feel free. This is your time to just take over.
Cool. I appreciate that. Thanks again, Robbie, for having me. This has been pretty fun.
Oh,
it's
no
always
problem.
great to talk, music and shit with people you go way back with. So, I mean, that's great.
I know. I feel like we're just kind of hanging out and shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And now everybody's just going to get to listen to it. So.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk to you about with wrestling and stuff. Just fascinated by that world. I mean, that's awesome.
Anytime. Hey, we can do it just me and you, or we can sit here and put it on the pod and just talk. Whatever you want.
But yeah, I mean, you could just search for me, TJ Zindle, Zindle. I'm on Facebook, anywhere you'd like. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Spotify, on iTunes, and Apple Music, Pandora. You can find the Ragbirds anywhere, those same places. Let's see, what am I doing? The Ragbirds have a bunch of festivals coming up this summer that are going to be fun. We're going to be touring a lot. Do you know when this will kind of go up? Like what type of time frame you guys do?
It'll be within the next few weeks, so anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, then, all right, I won't plug. I got some shows, but they're like this week and stuff. So,
gotcha.
But, yeah, I mean, if you look for me, you can find me. It's one of the nice things, but it's also weird to like harangue people. Like, here's all the different ways to find me. It's like, look, if you just put it in any of the million places that you'll type in a name in the internet.
Yeah, right.
People are so weird. Like, it's even with social media, it feels like feel like I'm harassing people just saying, hey, come to my show. Because it's like, if they want to come to my show, they'll find me. It's such a weird promotional nebulous wasteland out there, man. It's like, it's so tough because, you know, as artists, like, you know, we're not prone to really want to talk about it all that much.
Right.
Like, we don't want to, like, we just want to go do it, and we don't want to, like, self-promotion is just brutal for so many musicians, you know, and artists. And
you know, I'm with you, because I even feel weird when I make like a Facebook invite for one of my gigs. I'm like, this is kind of
sure, yeah, you know, and it's weird, like the things that happen. Like, I'm gonna tell this funny story because it's not even funny. It's more like dark humor, sad, funny.
Go for it.
So Last Conservative did a thing on a show called Advanced Warning on MTV, and it played once on MTV and then a couple times on MTV2, and then it got filtered down to their network. But that summer, we had tour dates all that summer, you know, and we plugged it, and it got really well promoted on the show. You know, the website was there, all the dates, you know, like the dates were easy to find. Like we had everything lined up, and you know, we do this tour, and we had varying crowds. You know, some were good, some were bad, some were there to see us, some weren't. But not one time did anyone say to me, "Hey, I saw you on that thing on MTV." And I remember thinking, like, not once. I thought there'd be like maybe a dozen people that might have said, hey, you know, I didn't hear about you until that one thing because it was on MTV, and this was sort of back at the tail end of when MTV didn't really mean anything, but we still kind of pretended like it did as as musicians. Like, it was like, oh, MTV is still kind of music involved, but, you know, obviously it's never, well, whatever.
Oh, I know what you mean. Trust me.
Right, you know, it's all money. It's all money. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, like, okay, this promotion is trickier than I thought. Even when you think you've got a slam dunk, you know, like you're on MTV, and then you think there will be some people at your shows.
Yeah, right.
You know, and that's life, and that was, you know, yeah, that's important. It's important to know that struggle.
Yeah.
To be familiar with it. If you want to keep playing, you have to keep grinding, and really, you kind of have to stay hungry.
Yeah.
It's sort of just the nature of it.
Absolutely. Stay hungry and stay humble.
Yeah. Those are hard things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you, Robbie. This was fun as hell, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll even do a part 2.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right, man. You have a good day.
You too.
All right, so that was a great interview there with TJ. And before I let you go, as always, I'm going to need you guys to click the link in the description for Insane Labs. Again, this is an amazing supplement company. I use it. I sell it to a lot of the boys in the locker rooms. If you follow the link and use code RVegas30, you will save 50% on your order. That is a huge discount. You have no reason, if you love being in the gym, if you're a wrestler, if you're just a healthy person who loves taking care of yourself, there's vitamins, pre-workouts, BCAAs, whatever you need. So go ahead and support Insane Labs as they help keep this podcast going. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Rock Soldiers.
Is this a comedy or a tragedy? 'Cause they both seem about the same. And are your intentions pure or an empty cure? Whose side are you on in this game? This is my Everest. My love for this is keeping me awake for the real deal. Or is it another thing?
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.